Greetings and salutations to our distance. It is I, Wolfphototech, and here we are with another delightful video. This time I'm going to talk about Rage of Elements here. Just so you know, this is actually truly the first Pathfinder Second Edition Remaster book, but it's the third one I covered on the channel. I've had this one for a while. It's been sitting in the backlog, the ever-growing backlog. That's just the 5th edition stuff right there. This big pile right here, that's just 5th edition, and there's 2 books in there that's Pathfinder Second Edition. But anyways, yeah, there's a lot of stuff. But anyways, this is the first book. I mean, this is literally the first book. This was originally going to be for Pathfinder Second Edition. However, OGL thing happened. Paizo found out Wizards of the Coast was going to try to screw people over. And then Paizo went to announce that they're going to create the orc and a whole bunch of other stuff. So, this book was announced, but it has yet to release at that time. So they probably went to immediately rework this entire book for Pathfinder Second Edition Remaster. And then they also went into Tianjia, Lost Omens Tianjia Character and World Guide. So those 2 books, those got pushed back out somewhere like next year. Some like, I think one is in February and the other one is in September-ish. So there you go. I was actually looking forward for Tianjia because I got a lot of weebs in my group, and they really like going into Oriental adventures. So here's the start of the book. By the way, this is MSRP's for $55. I do really like the fact that they do stuff other than just the flat background color for the inside of the cover. However, I personally prefer that this would be like for tables and stuff like that. Maybe term conversion and stuff like that. But they do that in this book. Being that this is the... I don't know why they chose orange for the base color for this book, but they did. I'm not going to complain about that. They use a lot of green and they use a lot of orange. Right here is the table of contents. And now, typically with these books, the table of contents is quite nice. However, for the first and foremost thing, there's a special column right here. Right up here on the top is the key for past books that this book references. So once you have those books, and for simple answers, Lost Omens Character Guide, Lost Omens Gods and Magic, Lost Omens World Guide, Secrets of Magic, and Treasure Vault. It gives you the little keys right there. The letters TV, anything that was TV is Treasure Vault, and SOM is Secrets of Magic. Then they have a little section down here called Updated Rules, where they basically list off some of the basic changes you will see that are specific to this book, converting from Pathfinder Second Edition to Pathfinder Second Edition Remaster. A lot of people like to refer to Pathfinder Second Edition Remaster as 2.1. I personally feel like it's Pathfinder Second Edition 2.25 at minimum. It would be a 2.1 if it was literally just swapping a bunch of words and a few other things. But seeing as they add 2 new elements to the system, they eliminate the alignment system completely from the system. They create the holy unholy mechanic and to replace the alignment system. And then they do a few other things, like they change a whole bunch of terms, like off guard was formerly known as flat-footed. They change a lot of other terms in this book, as well as such as positive and negative is now known as vitality and void. Okay, I should go over all the basics. Alignment has been removed. Followers of some deities commit to being holy or unholy. Attribute modifiers function like ability modifiers. Modifier scores have been removed, so they got rid of like 10, 12, 13, 14. You know, they removed all that stuff. It's literally just 0, -1, -2, +2, -2, +3, -3, +4, -4, +5, and so forth. It's just, I did the alternating thing there. But anyways, they just simplified that all down. They got rid of components for spells. Components for spells and item activations are replaced with relevant traits. Elemental scamps have replaced methods. Genies have been reorganized. Languages, they changed all terms for languages. Mushirs replaced Azars, including some new names. Planes, reactive strike is a replacement of attack of opportunity. Spells rank is a replacement for spell level, which is actually a pretty good replacement term. They changed the entire spell school system entirely. They reduced it down in number of options, and then they themed them entirely different. And they got Vitality and Void replacing positive and negative, and Wish is now a ritual, not a 10th level spell. They have added wood and metal as an element to the Classic 4. The beginning of the book is basically going over the elements and a bit of the themes behind each element and the history of the elements, as well as the various planes, the relationship of the cosmology of all the planes. It's shifted to more of an Asian vibe, a philosophy for elements, as opposed to European. You get the character class called the kineticist, as well as Yoon, which is the iconic. Interestingly enough, kineticist, there's this common pattern with Dungeons & Dragons and Pathfinder where they use words for literally the wrong thing. Like evocation in Dungeons & Dragons is for elements like fire, lightning, your radiating energy. If you look up the word evocation in classical dictionaries, it's actually emotions, mind stuff like that. So this is another one of those examples where you have this strange situation in like tabletop where words don't mean what they actually mean. They completely misuse entire dialects and terminology atrociously. Kineticist, kinetic, is like force or energy transferred through things, like a bullet or you pushing a rock, kinetic energy from your hand, hitting the rock, transferring energy through the rock and moving the rock. In Pathfinder, it is literally the elemental bender of classes. So it's kind of this weird situation where there was this other thing called Avatar: The Last Airbender that had this concept, and they did a really good job of explaining this concept. And they used the term bender, like bending or manipulating or twisting or all the elements, you know. And then for whatever reason, when Paizo went with kineticist, tried to make an elemental manipulation character class, they could only come up with the word kineticist, which is a completely wrong word to use. Absolutely for it. This is a common theme that occurs repeatedly, particularly through any Dungeons & Dragons lineage of TTRPG, is literally the end, even other TTRPGs, the literal misuse of words and concepts, to even degrees of being grossly inaccurate in every possible way. So there you go. I do happen to like the fact that they maintained the standard layout in the book, and they did do the updated navigation bar on the side, where in the older editions of Pathfinder the older version of Pathfinder Second Edition, it would literally just be the words of each chapter in a roll, and there would be a highlight bar right there, and you would know what chapter you were in. That's it. And you would know what was the previous one and the next one if you were just keep paging through the book. In this one, they actually use a drop-down method, much like the Pathfinder Second Edition Remaster, where they actually expand it into multiple other sections. So if I go and flip it to Earth, you notice it changes from the drop-down list changes. So that is actually an exceedingly nice feature they have included. It's still not 100% of the way to being a super good navigation bar, but it's still a heck of a lot more useful than it was before. It was just simply a nice reminder of where you are and what's next and what's previous. This one actually gives you a little more depth when you go into a chapter. You actually see what's inside the chapter. But here you have Yoon, and you have the key attribute, hit points, the basic gist of the class, if you're playing the class, and how characters would react to your class, and then initial proficiencies right here. And then you would go over here to the level progression table here, and it would start from level progression all the way to here, which would be level 1 or level 0. What your character essentially is starting as, with what they got, and explaining what all the basic concepts you have to deal with at exactly level 1 for each class. And then it would, seeing as you start at level 1, it goes through all the basic concepts, and then it would step into, say, typically subclasses that you would get at level 1 options, if there are subclasses for that class. And then they would move into level 2 and level 3 and 4 and so forth. And typically they'll have a bar here, or spread throughout any of the sections, that contains keywords that you want to know more information on for that class. So you basically have, as I said before here, you start at level 1, the basic background stuff, continue through all the basic information for level 1 until you hit the end of the level 1 stuff, and then you get into level 2, and then they'll sprinkle in some more of these bars here for information, and you'll occasionally gain a new action set or something like that for your character, as well as a few more bits of information. And then they'll stick in somewhere, say like right here, this happens to be the list of feats you can acquire at each level. Keep in note that as you go through, this is just all the basic stuff that you gain every time you level up. And only after you go through all level 20 on the list here for your basic level up stuff, I can turn over here, then it starts into feats. So it'll list all the stuff by level, all the basic characteristics, and then you get your first, in the next section of the character class section, would be the feats, which is your customizable components, which you gain access to as you level up. They will sprinkle in sample characters of that class. And this is actually a nice example right here of a generalist right here, of a character that has decided, hey, I'm going to gain access to every single element. I'm going to have some control of every element in the system. There you go. So you go from here to there, from level 1 feats all the way to level 20. And as I said before, they'll sprinkle in little tables here explaining basic concepts. If you gain something in the feat, you'll go on from there. However, the kineticist is really interesting because it actually is multiple feat sections, one after another. For example, right here is the start of the basic kineticist feats. And they go from level 1 to 20. However, each element of the kineticist will have its own feat section, starting in alphabetical order. So you go from 1 to 20. Boop. Here's level 20 feats for the kineticist down here. And then on the next page, it starts air impulses, which is the air elemental feats. And that also goes from level 1 to 20-ish. In this case, the highest air elemental impulse is level 18. Infinite expansion of blunt heaven. Bluest heaven. Infinite expansion of bluest heaven, which is 3 actions. And then you have the earth impulse, the fire impulse, and as it can tell, this is all alphabetical. Metal impulse, water impulse, wood impulse. And then you got composite impulses, which is basically combinations of 2 or more elements together, which has their own set of requirements to gaining those. And then you have your elemental allies, which is basically your familiars or your pets that you as a kineticist can pick up. You got like fire lions and brain check 5 seconds here. That looks like it's a metal. That looks like a metal cuttlefish or a nautilus. You got a wood monkey and so forth. Then you got elemental backgrounds. Then you got the common ones right over here. And then you have uncommon elemental background. And then you got some rare elemental backgrounds right down here. And then you have a little bit more information. You happen to have an ancestry here, which is a new genie kin. As well as a new barbarian instinct, the elemental barbarian instinct. And then you got elemental spells changes. This section right here is essentially just conversion pages for changing elemental spells from Pathfinder Second Edition to Pathfinder Second Edition Remaster. So you bridge the gap between those two. And then you got your elemental archetypes. You got your kineticist multi-class archetype, elementalist class archetype, and then you have a fun little section on some lore and deities related to elements, as well as various other creatures starting in air spells. So you have a section on air, and then you have a section explaining right here. You have air, and then you have each one of those sections related to air under here, and then it goes into earth, fire, metal, water, wood, and then the churn of elements. So you have this entire section, which is all air spells, air deities, air-related items. So you got magic items related to air and so forth. You got deities, other beings based in air, as well as other monsters and creatures. These happen to be creatures that are air element related. And the same basic thing is replicated throughout all the other 5 elements. So here's the Embrace of Abundance, which is the wood, or not wood, earth section. And I'm just going to skip all that. As I said before, you have deity, you have a little history of the plane, you have deities, you have spells, you have magic items, various other items tied into it. You have other creatures that are of that elemental alignment, and so forth. And I'm just going to skip all those other ones because that turns into a page turning situation, and people actually start complaining about on occasion that I end up just turning through all the pages, and that gets a little boring. And then we get to the last section, which is the churn of elements, which is the 7th section of elements, which is basically all about blending all the elements together. So in this book, in this section, you basically have, like what you have before in the previous sections, you will have hybrid element spells that are a combination of 2 different elements. You have hybrid element items, hybrid element genies, and other characters, and you have an arcane spell list. So this all translates everything from in this book into the various spell lists for the arcane spell list, the divine spell list, the occult spell list, and the primal spell list for this, as well as this has an ability glossary right here, as well as the creatures by level and a glossary index for everything in this book. This also contains, interestingly enough, the open game license right here. This is essentially the transition book between Pathfinder Second Edition 2.0 and Pathfinder Second Edition 2.25 or 2.5 or something like that. Or not 2.5, 2.2 or something like that. It's somewhere between that 2.15 and 2.25. Somewhere in there. They got a little advertisement here for a thing that's coming fall of 2023, which I honestly should try to look up elemental stones from Paizo. Paizo? Okay, I might as well look that up. Is that going to be something like dragon dice or something? Oh my goodness. That's not good. But anyways, if you are a person who really is going to transition from Pathfinder Second Edition or Pathfinder 2.0 to Pathfinder Second Edition Remaster, which is like 2.15 to 2.25, this book, besides the player core and the GM core, is a absolute must-buy, because this actually expands out a lot of stuff. It adds in a lot of layers and adds a whole bunch of other stuff like creatures that are actually in the Pathfinder Second Edition Remaster format. So you have no conversions whatsoever from this book to Pathfinder Second Edition Remaster. So this is an immediate 2.5 stars for that. For Pathfinder Second Edition people who are still running the original variant of Pathfinder Second Edition, this is going to require you to convert it back to an older version of Pathfinder Second Edition, which means you're going to have to add an alignment. You're going to have to figure out what to do with holy and unholy, as well as a few other things. But overall, the changes of the names of the creatures is no big deal. The inclusion of holy and unholy is not that big of a deal. That does require you to change that holy back to good and unholy back to evil or chaotic, whichever way you want to go. And then you got vitality and void, which is positive and negative conversion there. So you have to just remember, swap two things for another two things, and then add something else entirely back in like alignment. And there you go. But it is numerous little changes. And this is a minor conversion. If you want to use the Player Core 1 in Pathfinder Second Edition, the classic Pathfinder Second Edition, that would require way more conversion. If you wanted to use the newer version of the fighter in the older version of Pathfinder Second Edition, yeah, that would require more work. Same thing with ancestries. But in this case, it's easier overall. I think they purposefully designed this book to be a bridge that connects the 2 points, where they kept enough of the old stuff in and they reference into it, and then they into the next thing. So there you go. This book comes out to approximately 240 pages. So there you go. I hope you have a delightful day, a nice night, a wonderful weekend, magnificent month. And if you enjoy this video, please leave a like, subscribe, comment, share, playlist, spam your neighbors. I'm just joking, yes. You don't have to do any of those things, but if you really do, go for it. I'm just going to keep pulling stuff out of my big pile and showing them to you and leaving links in the description to Amazon and other stuff. So if you are interested in what you have seen, you always have have an arrow pointing you into a direction of purchasing it, or you can go to your local gaming store and buy from there. See you next time. Ciao.